Welcome in to the Bobby Carpenter Show. Excited to have you on here with us today. We've got a nice little show planned for you on this Thursday. One more day in the month of January. And heck, we're turning the calendar, folks. We are rolling right across. And if you think about it like this college football playoff, I know I've talked a lot. The fact that, hey, when Ohio State won it, by the time you get back, reset, recharge, like you're going to be staring at the month of February. And that's essentially what's happened. And so this calendar right now, you're like, I go in the woody, you get a chance to work out, and it's like, hey, what's going on? What are the coaches doing? What's it like over there? Like they're basking in the glory of their national championship. Well, it's not exactly that at all. It's really more of a function of that they're sitting there and not sitting there at all. Rather, they're not even in the building. They're not even in the facility at this point. They they are out recruiting, and that's why this calendar is so crazy right now. The fact that and so, and I know that we started a little bit late today, and I apologize for that. We had miscommunication on my guy Schleg's behalf. So we're up, we're rolling, and we're going to get cooking here for you. Schleg's will be joining here at the top of the hour. So we figured we'd push it back a little bit to get as much Schleg's as you possibly could. But, these coaches, they're all out recruiting right now. And if you've been following anything on the recruiting trail, and we'll get into this. And I know a lot of people don't get like inundated with, who the guys are you're bringing in or who they're out there recruiting. But let's throw that pick up a Walt, Pat. That's a good idea. Tim Walton on the recruiting trail out there. And, one of the guys is doing a fantastic job, and Tim traveling around, seeing some of these elite corners from around the country. And everybody loves Tim. He does such a great job recruiting that it's pretty darn impressive with what he's able to bring to the table. And so not only, he's a great coach on the field and developer of talent and really a leader of men, but also does a great job going out and finding a way to procure talent. And, I didn't think that was a worry, but when you look at a guy who's been in the NFL for a long time, how do they come back and translate? And it helps that he's a Buckeye as well. So he's out recruiting Laurinaitis, all these guys. Now, one of the other big topics of conversation that we have is like, none of the coaches really aren't in. Ryan Day, he just did the Kelly Clarkson show, did a tremendous job. And he's been telling the heck out of that golf cart story. And it's been interesting. And, Ryan being like us being kind of contemporaries, you have the same movie references, the same kind of pop culture references, if you will, that come from like your time when you were growing up. And honestly, folks, like anybody out there will tell you, like when you reference movies, you reference some newer stuff, but the vast majority of things you probably reference in life from movies, pop culture, music, whatever it might be, are going to come from, the time of, I don't know, like middle school, high school, early college. You've got about a 10-year window, I think, maybe like early out of college. But once the time, like you're thoroughly in the workforce, you have what we used to call in college an RJ, a real job. You just don't have time to stay up with maybe the music quite as much, maybe some of the movies, and you do for a couple of years. Like at 30, you've kind of put that aside. 28 to 30, 27 to 30, that window kind of begins to close. So Ryan Day, as he's talking about this golf cart, with Kelly Clarkson, just like he did with Jimmy Fallon, he does a great job, very personable on there, does a good job. He references the fact that it's like he's like in an Austin Powers movie, and so everybody just saw the ending and you saw the wreck. But like when they took off on the field, he's like, she gasses it down and, like diving out of the way. He's like, Ryan's like, it felt like we were in Austin Powers. And, after the game, like you're a little excited and you're juiced up, but then you're like, hey, a little scared. Like, does this girl know what she's doing? Like, are we in a good spot right here? So Ryan's told that. Him and Nina did a great job. And, Nina not being a very public person, I think this is some of the first times that people have got a chance to see her. She did a sit down at Ohio with WBNS, and then ultimately we saw her do some more stuff, and like she started to go to more of these things, and maybe she's getting a little more comfortable with it. It's a little bit easier when you're the conquering hero returning to Rome, so that makes it a little bit more enjoyable. But Ryan's making all the circuits, and what's interesting with that, it would be easy to think that a guy like that would be stressed out right now. And you're thinking, like, stressed out? What do you mean you just won a national championship? Well, you got to find a new defensive coordinator. Your offensive line coach is out interviewing with the Chicago Bears. And as much as maligned as Justin Fry and everybody wanted to paint him this year, like Justin Fry did a hell of a job for the Ohio State Buckeyes. The offensive line, if you look at them on that run, giving up only a couple of sacks to 4 pretty pretty solid defensive lines. I mean, 4 you could say the top 25 defensive lines. Like none of those teams were deficient. Now Notre Dame, obviously, with Riley Mills getting hurt up front, I think that may have impacted them a little bit, but did a great job. Played 9 guys all year, and so we've given Justin Fry his flowers. Interviewed last year, I think, for some O-line jobs in the NFL, and I don't know if this is something that he's like actively really wanting to do. Like if Justin Fry wants to go to the NFL, like if he's done with college, because some guys like they consider themselves NFL guys. They don't want to recruit. Justin Fry he's a pretty personable guy. I know people have lamented the fact that Ohio State hasn't brought in a 5-star under him. Well, I say, okay. And then there's people that talk about, well, he hasn't also recruited many Ohio guys. Well, they got the twins up out of Lakewood. Padilla's from Ohio. Shabola's from Ohio. Luke Montgomery's from Ohio. Like, I mean, those are Ohio guys, and he's developed them. The interior of the line, I feel really good about next year. And the reality is, too, with offensive linemen, that's how the portal goes. I heard some people talking about this. Like, Ohio, number one, it was said, Ohio State recruits itself. Well, I think that's true to a certain extent. But when you start talking about elite level guys that have elite level options, then it comes down to how good of a coach are you? There's the NIL component of it. And if you have guys that are just chasing money, then those aren't the guys you want. Because if money's all you chase in life, it's all you'll ever catch. However, you want to be in the ballpark, but then guys want to come places like Brian Hartline because they can develop them. You've seen James Laurinaitis do this. Like you come here, you're playing for a guy who played at the next level, who understands the game, who's going to develop you into the very best player that you can ultimately be. And that's a BFD, man. That is a huge deal for these guys out on the recruiting trail. And so as maligned as people say Justin Fry is like, he's not bringing these guys. He's done a good job developing them because I know this. At the end of the season, once you gave him some time, and after the puzzle was all mixed up, the pieces were all hodgepodge together, I know this. We're coming out into the 2025 season with 3 pretty guards that have played and played well and played in big games and a center that ended up being benched, who ended up starting at guard and then moving back to center, and Carson Hinsman, who isn't an Ohio guy. But I always say this, like the greater Midwest region. I mean, you are Big Ten footprint. Like we're not talking about going to Florida. We're not talking about going to Texas or Georgia or out to California. Carson Hinsman is from Wisconsin. That's a little bit on the fringe of it. But usually I say Ohio and the contiguous states, like getting kids out of maybe Kentucky, West Virginia, like Western PA, Michigan, Indiana, like that's all like the same type of kid regionally. Wisconsin's very similar to that. And so you got Carson Hinsman. So he's developed those guys. And here's also part of it. The second piece, like, well, I heard an argument as far as bringing in guys, it's all just about money. And so it doesn't matter if you're a good recruiter, if you can pay them the most. Well, there is a finite level of dollars, like we talked about yesterday, and we'll dig in more. This Ohio State athletic department, they brought in a ton of cash last year, but they were also underwater by over $30 million. And so they've got to figure that out. And now 20 of that was kind of new dollars that are thrown in there because they have NIL that you can pay players now out of your TV revenue split that's going to happen. So that's a big piece of it. And something that was never in the equation before. So that's something that now people look at, and it was no other coaches had to deal with that, no other AD. And so Ross Bjork was kind of airdropped into that. So you can't say Ohio State recruits itself and then say Justin Fry doesn't recruit good guys, and then say it's all about the money and Justin Fry can't get guys. Well, it's like, well, how are we allocating our dollars? And they lost the big-time guy, the 5-star guy to Tennessee, and ultimately they're going to pay him a lot. But here's the ultimate reality about offensive line. And I know this is a soliloquy that has gone on about offensive line and taken a long time, but you look at teams that win in college football, elite offensive lines, elite defensive lines. Ohio State's defensive line, all seniors. Backups, Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Hero Kanu, who's now the hero down at Texas, Caden McDonald, Edric Houston, who they moved inside. They've got a bunch of dudes that they've been rolling. Taiwan Malone that they're going to have to get in there. They've got some good young defensive ends. And maybe ultimately you're getting more guys, CJ Hicks involved in the rush next year. But you want to have a great defensive line and a great offensive line. And you look at all the time that Will Howard had to throw. He was only sacked a couple of times in the playoffs. They were able to run the football bigly against really good defensive lines. And so you need to have those two areas hemmed up. Now, Ryan seems surprisingly relaxed. He's gone out and done all this while your D coordinator is gone to Penn State, your rival, and then you have your O-line coach ultimately at the Bear interviewing with Chicago. So we'll see how that breaks. We'll see if he ultimately ends up going to Chicago. If they end up offering him, if he decides to leave. You know, the thing is in the NFL, this is one thing I think Ryan probably learned. And they've been here, and it was awesome because he came out and said, "Hey, I want to be here as long as you'll have me." But and so that's the greatest thing. Like, and also he has 3 kids that I think really enjoy it. And Nina, I think they love it here. And part of it is when they moved here, I joked with him and Nina, like in the NFL, I think they lived in 4 houses in 5 years. And that was tough. And then all of a sudden you're in Columbus for 7. And so your formative years of your kid's life. And I know these coaches make a lot of money and there's a lot of, things, but they get a chance to live in the Midwest. It's similar. Columbus, like it's bigger than New Hampshire where they grew up, but like it's not a big city, crazy big city. You get on the outside of it. Traffic isn't crazy bad. And, your kids get a chance to grow up and have continuity in their life, which a lot of coaches' kids don't. And so if they can give them that, I think a lot of them do. And if you go to the NFL, a lot of times you're just getting hired to get fired. And you can be the best position coach in the world. If your coordinator's not the best in the world, if he's incompetent, then you're going to get fired maybe as a defensive or offensive staff. If your head coach is incompetent, then yeah, you get fired as well. But maybe you get another job and you go somewhere else and you're making great money and you don't have to recruit. But you're also job hopping and your kids are going to 4 different schools in 7 years. And it's a tough way to live. And some people can do it. The bigger the family, probably the harder it is. Some people might say it's easier because you have like your family unit, but there's a lot of variables that ultimately come into this. And so with all that being said and all that happening, like this is the most relaxed that I've seen Ryan Day. You got to take Schlegel out. I'm finishing this. We don't need him yet. This is the most relaxed that I've ever seen Ryan Day. He seems like genuinely like a burden has been lifted off his shoulders. And so while all of those things are going on, I think he's got a plan. I don't want to pretend to know what the plan is, but offensive line might be a little bit different because you're going to have to bring someone in and do they, have the same feel of Chip Kelly. And by the way, Chip Kelly's interviewed for jobs and I guess there's interest there, but Ryan understands how to make it work. He's now a veteran college coach. He's been here 6 years. He's won a national title. And so he's had guys come, he's had guys go. And he understands like, hey, continuity is good, but we're running our system on offense. It's our scheme and we'll figure it out. We'll find the right guys to be able to get this going, be able to push it in the right direction. And so in seeing that, like if he's going to be that relaxed and I feel like he has that much confidence, like who am I to judge? Who am I to say that we should be worried about it? Ryan has figured it out before. I think he'll figure it out again and enjoying this right now. He's probably like a duck on a pond when you see him out or when he's not on TV and doing all the different interviews. I mean, he is thrashing underneath trying to get everything done. But I believe that he has a plan. He knows probably what he wants to do with stuff depending on all these different contingency things. And it'll be okay. But what else is going to be okay is the fact that we got Schlegs waiting in the bullpen. We're going to hit a quick commercial break. But before that, let me tell you about our friends over at Export. Parents, athletes, whomever out there, protect what matters most with Export mouth guards, trusted by professional athletes and designed by NHL team dentists. Export mouth guards are scientifically tested to absorb those high impact hits to protect both your teeth and your brain. Export mouth guards feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including patented use of carbon fiber, custom fit to your own unique smile. That 3D printing, right, snug, fitting on there, mean more protection, better performance, max comfort, and clear communication. It's crystal. So don't take chances with your safety. Focus on your game, not on your gear. Visit export.com/Bobby and save 15% or more. Export, protect what matters most. We got our guy, Anthony Schlegel, in the bullpen, ready to rock.
Welcome to Big Play, the fastest growing sports media company in America.
I'm gonna keep it straight with you. The reason you should watch our show is because I look good, baby. Come get some!
Join our millions of fans for live sports talk shows hosted by the top former athletes and sports personalities in the industry.
Ohio, it's my home state.
Obviously, I'm a diehard Cleveland sports fan.
Watch what you want, where you want, when you want. Welcome to Big Play.
Make sure you tune in.
I love you, Cleveland.
Welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show. And now we got our guy. I don't know if you're Goose or if there's two Mavericks or if you're Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn. I mean, there's a lot of things. I might just have you stay on the chat the whole show, Schlegs, just to provide information and content there. We're happy to have you in. How was your meeting? Did we slay some faces?
Oh, melted faces off. This has been a, blow up, get shit done list that was my to-do list. And I'll just pull that up. So, even at the top of my to-do list, where is my guy here? The top of my to-do list. So everybody, I was telling my assistant, she needs, her brother was like, you need to write up a day in the life of Anthony Schlegel at business because it is absolutely chaotic.
People write books we call it that,
yeah. So it's the number one thing is in business, how I think of things. If you undervalue it, they will underappreciate it. Always remember in business and in time, right? Back in the day, there's a lot of tolerance. Tolerance has now gone down. Expectations have now gone up.
More intolerant society, folks. That's what Schlegs is saying. Less tolerance.
Yeah, but if you undervalue it, they will underappreciate it. That's for real. The cheaper you are, the more it will cost. I put that literally at the top of Schlegel's to-do list. Okay. Here's another one. If you are replaceable, we talked about this the other day, you are not promotable. And then also I have a good plan executed violently.
Okay.
Violently. Now is better than a perfect plan executed next week. And don't confuse activity with achievement, which
you stole that
Bobby Carpenter. No. It says on my page. It says on my page, Bobby Carpenter. I got General Patton, right? I have the people that I heard it from. So I accredit that to you because sometimes I feel like I'm getting stuff done because I'm so busy, but I haven't got anything done because my list is still really long.
I'm going to tell you this.
Tell me, please, sir.
I think I may have stole that from Bill Parcells. So
okay.
When we go through all this, you can put Bobby Carpenter, parentheses, Bill Parcells.
Okay.
I don't know if he said it exactly like that, Schlegs. I like to think my dad told me I was becoming a wordsmith. So maybe I cleaned it up, churched it up a little bit because he was like, what are we doing? We're just out here running plays. We're just running plays. As if we're just Schlegs, we're just trying to get through the script. Are we trying to get better? Are we trying to focus on anything? Right. He's like, we're active. And I don't know how it went down, but it's something about activity and achievement. I was like, there's something there. Let me workshop this a little bit. And maybe I cleaned it up. The other one, my dad told me this a long time ago. He doesn't even remember telling me, but it's like, if all you chase is money, that's all you'll ever catch. And I thought that was a pretty good line as well. When you start talking about building culture and everything within teams, and what you kind of value in life. If you value the other things, usually success financially and team wise and recognition, all that usually happens for you if you do the things the right way and you handle your processes in a way that is professional. So if you do that, that's fine. But if all you're chasing is the dollars, well, you might get that, but that might be all you're getting. It's a little King Solomon-esque, if you will.
Bob, you're good at that. And honestly, those are good things to always remind yourself. And I know we're getting on a tangent of business, but we had the Armory Connect. I think it was this last Saturday.
Sweet. I want to go to the Armory Connect.
Yeah, you should. I'm probably going to do it. I've been thinking about do I do it quarterly? Do I do it semi-annually? But basically what it was.
Should we do that after church, dude? And I was like, I saw that. I was like, that's a great idea for Schlegs. Well done on that.
Thank you. Well, that was Media Megan. I call her Media Megan, but that was Megan about but the whole thing is here at the Armory, it's one team, one mission, changing lives, but it's also how do you get other people from the business community, wherever you are, it doesn't matter, come over here, talk shop, listen to people, and then communicate because, I just remember in Metroflex, The dude that was right next door to the building, he was Vietnamese. He couldn't speak a lick of English. And every time we'd go kill pigs and like throw them on the deal, like they would take the hide and maybe like one hind quarter. But he would always like fix my car because I'm in high school, right? So it's like, hey, my car's not doing right. Boom. Okay. And then bam, it was fixed. And that was it. But it's just the point of life on life. You know, we talked about the greatest workouts that you have. And like this is combine training now. So like, people don't know this, but you, me, and AJ, we all trained together in the yard. Remember, they were redoing the weight room and we had fences around what we were doing. And we trained each other and with each other for the combine. But your greatest workouts are done when you have the best partners. And so it's the same thing in the weight room. You got to have great partners. Okay, hang on. You got to have great partners. So why not bring that training community together and like, hey, Ron, you're a kick-ass barber. I need a haircut. I'm going to go see Ron. Hey, you're a great realtor. I want to, and I like you, and we can have a convo after the workout. Because I evaluate people by how they train. I'll tell you this too. Like when I go out and I take somebody out to like hire them. We go out to dinner. I'm evaluating how they treat the service.
Yeah.
Like, are you treating them with dignity and respect? Because like, are you going to treat our members that way? Are you going to treat our
It's amazing you say that because I was talking with some NFL guys and like I was telling the current player, the guys that were on their way out, like some little nuggets of life advice. And one of my friends who I was working with, and he was like, dude, you talk to the scouts and afterwards, Schlegs, you get to know them through the years. I've known all these guys for 20 years now. And they like, there was a team that would take guys out to dinner and they'd like intentionally mess up their order and have a fresh one in the back. But just to see that interaction with the server, like how they treated people and how they handled adverse situations, I was like, man, I'm glad they didn't do that to me. I'd like to think that I'd like to think that I handle it well.
It depends. It depends on if you had food before you got on an airplane to go out there.
How hungry am I? Like that's the big deal. And if I'm really hungry, Shaggs, I might be like, hey man, bump it. If it's if it's an acceptable mess up, I didn't order this, but you know what? I'd probably eat it anyway. So Buckeyes, charge it to winning. I'll just gobble it up. But that's it. Like how can you treat people around you that can do nothing for you? And so that's a critical aspect of life. And they do that at Ohio State when they bring guys. Like that's all part of talent evaluation. It's like, what dudes do you want to have on the bus? Like we'll figure out the direction, but we don't have the right folks on there. We can find them jobs. We can find them roles as long as they're the type of people that we want to have.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing too, when you look at the art of coaching, especially schematically. I was talking to a high school coach that was in here the other day, and he was like, yeah, I'd really like to have the guys that Ohio State had, And I'm like, no, it's about what can your talent do and then putting them in the best positions to be successful. Because just because you have this scheme, right? Like what we discussed earlier with Caleb Downs, and the reason they were able to do some of those fits with Caleb and Lathan is because you had Jordan Hancock that could be back there as well. So because we have this talent, because we have a particular player that can do some very, very special things from the back end that can really shore up our run fits and still play in that system and cover the pass well, but also have really good run support, like just like we did in college. Like I blew his mind. I was like, dude, you don't understand. In 2005, we ran 80% nickel. Why could we do that? Because you had B. Mitch, you had Nate, and you had Dante, who basically played a star, and then you were able to go down and put your hand in the ground and rush the passer as a fight technique. I was like, so you see the talent that you have, and you're going to have to make adjustments because it's always about the players, not necessarily about you. And I'll even use that same thing in business. As you go through business and you're evaluating what it is that you do, I'm testing and trial and error things all the time to see if it works. You might think that, I'll say it this way, you want to run a 4-3, but you might have to change to a 3-3-5, predicated upon what you're doing, and things have to change. But that 3-3-5 allows you to be really, really good.
Absolutely. Let's toss this post up here with Caleb. Pat had a great idea as he was going. And this is a very, very important piece as he threw up there. And you know, the team talking about the strength of the Ohio State Buckeyes. The team is going to be this team is still going strong, and the coaching staff is still very experienced. Like Caleb Downs in there, he's in there grinding right away. Like, and this is why I love that dude. You know, he came in here and people are like, oh, transferred, all this money, whatever, from Bama. Dude, Caleb's a leader. Caleb's a grinder. And, everybody wants to overreact. Like, he knows how good these guys are. They'll figure it out. And he understands that, hey, Matt Guerreri's good, Tim Walton's good, James Laurinaitis. Like, they've got a good staff, and the culture of the team is strong. You know why, Schlegel? Because he's leading it. Like, if you want it to be strong, man, you got to lead by example. You got to be in there. You got to be grinding and getting after it and developing that toughness that you really want to see. And so kudos to him. I love it, man. And I know you love Caleb too.
I love Caleb too. And here's from the first moment I met Caleb, like he was just automatically a pro. Like he has some things he's always constantly working on. You see how he's working on his craft when he goes to the field, how he activates, like all the different things that he does, how well he communicates, how he cares about his teammates. But just he understands that, yeah, I got other things that I got to do, but he is 100% about ball all the time as soon as he steps in that building. And like we talked about yesterday with Sonny, like this is now their team. And when you have guys that, the best part about this team, and Joshua Perry made a great point. I think it was, I don't remember who it was on, but I think these guys are more equipped for the celebrity status and running it back because of the way that NIL is now comparatively to the 14 to 15 year. He was like, man, we had guys going here. We had guys going there. Like they didn't really, understand how to like embrace that because it was so new, but now it's not new because you're coveted when you come out of high school. You're coveted when you go into the portal. You're coveted because you win a national championship. It's just part of the business that is college football now. So for them to be able to run it back, it all is going to start with that leadership. That's what made the offseason so great this year. It's what made the ability to handle adversity so awesome this year is because of the leadership of that team. But now those guys get to lead it and express their voice, and they've already been doing it. But now it is just them and how they bring others along with them.
Yeah, I mean, they were right there, but now they're the primary guys, and Caleb was always a part of it. But you always defer to the veterans and to the seniors. And so he's talking about leadership being at the top. Pat, if we can throw that up of our guy, the head dog in Big D. I don't know if Schlegel has heard this.
Oh, I know, bro. This was amazing. It was going to be my Schleg's end of the deal day, and I was like, no, I'm saving that.
No, we're going to listen. We're doing this. You want to talk about leadership and success, Schlegel? It's all starts at the top. And so why don't we throw old Mr. Jared Jones up there and in his press conference with Brian Schottenheimer, which you coached with Shotty. Yeah. I know Shotty really well. And if we can actually play the audio on this, it's one of the best you'll ever find. Do we have that? Click over. It's so good. But Jerry Jones' success. Now he's an oil guy, Schlegel. And so the oil tycoon in him, if you will. I think, and here's the thing, I think he knows because someone asked me, Rothman had talked to me about this yesterday. He goes, do you think Jerry Jones knows what a glory hole is? I go, well, there's two definitions. A glory hole in oil and gas is like, did you find a well that's just spewing up money? I mean, it's the mother lode and it's taking care of you. The other form of the glory hole is another form of hole that gives you success, but success on a pleasureful level that might not be on the financial. Here we go. Let's throw it up here.
Very low percentage of that is smiles and glory holes. Very low percentage.
I love it. I love it. Dude,
There's a very low percentage of this that is smiles and glory holes.
But
what was the context of that there's low smiles? Because I mean,
happiness. The glory hole, Schlegel, is the fun time. That's
there's low percentages of glory holes and smiles. Like, how does that even compute?
Because you're happy, like smiling.
I'm happy. I'm happy right now. I'm on the Bobby Carpenter show.
Whether or not you've got $100 oil just spewing out of the ground, a barrel a second, or you're staring at a divider in a bathroom wall with some pictures and names written on it with an appendage on the other side. Like, and who knows what's over there? Like maybe, and you're smiling at that. It's all smiles and glory holes then, but that's not the reality of life. That's not how it goes. And so you can't just lean into that all the time. You got to come in and you got to be able to do the work. And that's why I like you, Schlegel. You're a guy that likes to do the work, that enjoys the grind. All right. Coming up next, we've got some more stuff here. We got some great talk about Talk about this Ohio State budget. Also, like Texas, they had their budget out there. They were bringing in some elite cash as well. And then Riley Leonard down at the Senior Bowl, still having comments about the Buckeyes and everything that he's got going. All that coming up next on the Bobby Carpenter Show. There he is, back. Just popping up when the time is right. All right, Ohio State Schlegs, we talked about the budget. What was it, $270 million or something like that? Do you remember what it was?
No. It was the fact that we were like 35 over budget.
Well, we were. They made a lot of money. But just as Patrick Ewing quoted many moons ago, NBA players may make a lot, but we spend a lot. And the Buckeyes made a lot, but they spend a lot. You can always outspend what you make. I mean, it's just a matter of time and finding things to buy and what to be able to spend it on. A lot of it's staff and student athlete experience.
I'm going to ask you this, Rob. I want to ask you this because this would probably be a good thing in the chat. If you had the NIL money that these guys had today, what would you be spending your money on?
Ooh, BMF Schlegs. You know what BMF is?
Just a big mother effer? I don't know. What is it?
Blowing money fast, man. I mean,
That's
I don't
what
know.
you'd be doing?
I mean, I don't think I'd be full on like the Dolphins O-line coach from about 6, 7 years back that was blowing lines off his table and sending videos of it to a stripper in Vegas. I mean, that might seem like a little bit extreme. If I had limitless cash in college, or like money like these guys do, I mean, I had a sweet Dodge Stratus, but I'd probably.
Bro, it was sweet too. Wasn't it like? You had a gray interior.
Yeah, dark gray interior, silver outside.
Yeah,
it's the first car I actually bought myself. I mean, I would have probably got like a Tahoe or a 1500 or something like that. I don't know, like Tundra. I don't know, some sort of truck to be able to drive, like something a little bigger. But outside of that, dude, like I may have bought like a house to be able to live in, but I would want people to live in there with me. Like living by yourself, like in the NFL, it was just my wife, Courtney, and I. And when she was gone, like I'm in this house by myself, and it wasn't crazy big, but it was like 3,500 square feet. And I like wouldn't go in half the rooms, like nobody was living in the spare bedrooms. Like, why am I going in there? Like, oh, here's like the entertaining room. Well, I'm not going to go in there and, pour shots out of the bar and sit at the poker table by myself. Like we use that stuff so infrequently, but I would have probably bought a house as an investment. And I told these guys, I was sitting in the hot tub today talking to some of the young guys about it. It's like, man, I've got some friends, like guys who I ended up meeting. It took me like 6, 7 years out of college to meet, but I would have tried to invest it and started investing in different real estate and different, operating companies and whatever. And so hopefully by the time I was 40, I wouldn't be schlepping it with you doing a podcast in the middle of the day. I'd be, getting bumpy on a beach somewhere. I would have bought a house on a beach and put an outdoor weight room, and I would have combined my 3 favorite things: water, lifting, and booze. And I would just probably do that pretty much every day.
Yeah, that sounds
and
good.
Neglect my kids. Probably pay someone to raise them, send them to boarding school or something, and just see how they turned out. It's like putting them in an incubator, to see how they turn out at the end.
Yeah, somebody put in there a 6-disc CD changer. I had a CD like copier, but so we could bootleg Chicks Rockin' 80s volumes 1 through 5. But I definitely would have bought some land to hunt, and I would have spent all my money advances buying a bunch of guns. That's 100% what I've done. I know myself.
Yeah,
And some hog dogs. And some hog dogs that would run away and like Buddy, never to be seen again. The myth of Buddy the hog dog.
Well, to thy own self be true, Schlegs. That's what they always say. Know yourself. Let's take a look at Texas here and what they were able to do. So Ohio State's, they made a bunch. They were, over $30 million underwater, and some of that's due to the fact that they've got this $20 million payouts this year. But Texas, and they don't have near the varsity sports, Schlegs. They have
less 16 to 18.
Yeah, they have less than 20. Ohio State's carrying a full boat of 36, and this is what makes it tough is, if you take a look at Texas, as this comes up here, I mean, what'd they make? Over 300 million, and then they had 7 million in profits, 7 million in the red. That's pretty darn impressive. Now they played in the semifinal. They lost to the Buckeyes, but I mean, Ohio State, and this is what's tough. Ross Bjork came in and inherited this situation. You don't create the budget in a year. Heck, he just got here about this time last year. And so his ability to kind of manage it, a lot of these things are set in stone. And so they're going to have to try to figure this out. And I don't know if there's an easy solution that is readily available. That by definition, Schlegs, is a problem.
It is a problem. And, where do you make cutbacks? Like, how do you think out? Again, whenever there's a problem, everybody wants to go, oh, we got to cut, as opposed to, well, how could we generate more revenue? Now, some of that might cost money to be able to generate. I know that they're building that restaurant in the stadium. Like, how much can that realistically bring in? What do pricing structure has to look like for tickets? What are other things, other assets that you have on the premises? Again, if your brand is that valuable, what does that look like? How do you, maybe bring down some of the NIL money that you spend by having name, image, and likeness with the Hondas back in the day, right? That were hanging in the rafters that nobody got paid for. So all those different things go into it as to how do you attack the problem before you're like, oh, we just got to cut everything. Because I do believe that that's one of the most beautiful things about Ohio State is that we have 36 sports. We have 1,000 student athletes that participate in all of them, men and women. So, I like to go to those areas first before I start thinking about decreasing spending other places.
Okay. And that's the thing, like, can you find a way to boost revenue, which is always always the one people suggest. Cuts are generally the more easier, the expense side's more easy to manage, but there is some difficulty in trying to figure it out. And how good do you want to be at everything? That's the question.
I'm going to add this too. The day and age when people are going, like, this is hitting the strength and conditioning department. As you know, like, you go see like all these different facilities that are around the country. The day and age where people are going to go to a place simply because they have better facilities than your place is now slim and none. They're going to go there because of the coaches and the NIL deals, right? Like, I mean, you could train anywhere. I mean, you could have Metroflex gym in the world.
Well, I think there's a threshold, but like once you hit the table stakes, like, dude, is this, how much nicer is this? Do I need a water wall? Like, everybody wanted, what is the water wall doing for me? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, is the weight room big enough? Is it clean? Do they have the right equipment in there? Do they have great nutrition staff, great training staff, all the stuff that we need? Great. I mean, is there one that's a little bigger, is a little better, but like, how good are the people that are inside? Because that, as you know, Schlegs, is the big story of all of that.
That's the magic. That's the magic. Poof, David Copperfield.
There it is. David Copperfield will tell you. By the way, Schlegs, you were coming back late from the last break, and we're getting ready to break here, so I want to make sure you're going to be back again. Pat said you were maybe glory holing your laptop, and then Steely Matt said something about garage beer.
No, he was like about buying garage. If you had that money in college, I mean, if I was in college, if I was in college, I would have probably bought a bunch of silver bullets.
I didn't have garage beer.
No, they didn't. I'm thinking back in early 2000s, what they had back then. For me, it'd have been silver. Well, it started with Bud Heavies, but then we were the silver bullet defense, so I transitioned to Coors Light, and then I was a straight Copenhagen snuff guy for a long time.
Yeah.
So it had probably been logs of that. No glory holes, just logs of Copenhagen. Yeah. Now I just do this. LFGO, 200 milligram caffeine per pouch.
Yeah. Now you put a
and I superset that with some on nicotine.
Yeah. So that's good. You put a dress on and use those instead. So it's all good, Schlegs. The Buckeyes, we knew they were banging in the game. They were bringing the thunder on defense. Riley Leonard had some comments from the Senior Bowl about how tough that game was. Find out next in Headlines.
I'm ready, man. I can
Ready
hear
to
you,
go?
Bob.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
as
hearing
soon
you.
as
It
we get
says
the big play
live.
off
There's
the
big
screen,
play.
Slugs, and
What
get
are
it
you,
rolling.
no, what are we talking about? No, we just have banter back and forth. Just you and me. Nobody can see us, but I can see myself. So I'll just talk to myself.
Well, yeah, you can tell me all about that, Schlegs, and everything else that's going on in the world. Hopefully that screen clears up here in a second. Pat's out on vacation right now, Schlegs, so he's doing us a solid, but we may need to get him a better Wi-Fi connection to be able to do this into the future. Maybe
You
we
want to
can
talk
get
about Riley? Talk about Riley. Talk about
Yeah.
Riley.
So anyway, as we were talking in the black screen, the dark hole of despair, Riley
Sure, we were
Leonard.
talking about glory holes. Now we're in a dark hole. Here we
Yeah,
go. It's like
the dark
radio now.
It is the theater of the
Theater
mind.
of the mind. Exactly.
Well, imagine. So Riley Leonard, obviously ran it a ton of times. I forget how many exact. Do you remember how many exact times he ran it against Ohio State? It was like 18.
I think it was 18. I think the first drive it was like 10.
Yeah, and so he got the crap beat out of him. He ran it a lot, and they're talking about the Senior Bowl. Like, don't you need to rest? Are you going to be able to play? All these different things. What are you doing out there? Isn't your body beat up? And his direct quote is like, "I'm still feeling it. Those dudes could hit it. I took a lot of them." And Riley Leonard's a tough dude, but he was acknowledging that was like I think in the later that was the most physical game he played all year, and they had put so much on his plate with him trying to win. I mean, I think it almost broke him, Schlegs, and he's a great young man, and I'm glad to see he made it out of the game okay.
Yeah, and kudos to him for playing in the Senior Bowl. And this is where it's going to have to adjust. I remember you talking about like the 26th season. It's going to be in January 27th. That's absolutely asinine because now, I mean, we saw the numbers from the Chiefs Buffalo game, like 50 million, right? There's going to be over 100 million people watching the Super Bowl. Why go in there? Like, why try to compete with that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to push it up to where it's like the second week in January, like the 8th.
Well, there you go. There's the top hands.
I just remember when we won the first one in 14, it was on the 12th of January. And I won't ever forget that because I started work on July 27th. And I think I had 3 days off, AKA Christmas, during that time. Because, I mean, when you're a strength coach and you're a regular coach, it doesn't matter. Like, you're working every day. That's what it is. There is no off days because dudes come in off the off day. So I think somewhere in that range, that 12th, 8th, whatever that may be, 10th, that's where it needs to live.
That's ideal. I mean, if you're able to have a game that's played, you play the semifinals around New Year's, you play the final Schlegs, then ultimately on that following week, whether it's 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, depending on how the week hits and where you can go, that's all good. And so fantastic to see that, Schlegs. I'm half terrified to hit a break, but Pat, we'll get it figured. We'll get it going here. We've got our tailgate talk brought to you by RealTruck coming up next.
Get the most out of work life, and all your outdoor adventures with top-selling upgrades for your truck. Guaranteed fit, free shipping, easy install, expert support, and thousands of dealers just a click away. Bring your truck to life. RealTruck. Upgrade today and save between $50 and $400 on select RealTruck products. Visit realtruck.com/specials.
Yep. And welcome
And we're back to a black hole of glory.
black hole of despair, Schlegs. All right, here we go. Listen, it's brought to you by RealTruck. Oh, there we go. Our friends over at RealTruck.com. They do such a great job. Great partners of the show. Go check them out. They've got stuff the inside, outside, your truck, Jeep, or Bronco. They'll help you bring it to life. Go to RealTruck.com, and here's the best part. You spend $100 there, you're getting free shipping regardless. They do a great job. So go check them out, just like Schlegs and I. Bring your truck to life at RealTruck.com. All right, we got some comments coming up and from yesterday's show, and it was interesting. Some of the stuff, Schlegs, some of the people loved some of the stuff we were talking about with AJ. Some of them didn't. And this
What
one
did they
coming
not
from Zach O'Ryan's 1069. His comment was not reporting on the Michigan saga, had to turn it off and find another. Thought we talked a little bit about it. We might talk a little bit more about it tomorrow, but
My question is this. Who gives a shit?
well, what
Honestly,
there's not really
like,
any
I mean,
new,
like what?
there's
Like
not
what?
new
Like,
information that's been out there. That's my problem with it. I go,
like they're
we've got all
talking
this-
about like they're tampering about evidence. Guys, I don't give a shit. We just won a national championship and didn't do anything wrong. Like Ryan Day has done nothing wrong except develop dudes and win a natty and beat top 5 teams this year. Like, who cares? Like, that's just because they're your rival that you want to get a scoop on whatever the hell they're talking about. I'm sorry, I don't live that way. So yeah, turn us off. I don't give a shit.
Schlegs
Go
doesn't
Bucks,
care.
be cancer.
Believe me, I'm with you, Schlegs. Like, it's not, there's nothing
Why
new,
would I want
guys.
to talk about douchebags that want to cheat? We beat their ass for a long time.
So I'm saying, like, there's nothing new. Like, they responded to the NCAA's allegations. Like, the NCAA didn't have a punishment potentially in there. There's, I think, 6 level ones. You know, and they talk about, Sharon Moore knowing. There's some texts that they talk about having back and forth. Like, I mean, we could talk about it for 10 minutes if you want, but I don't want to sit there and dwell on it. It doesn't impact my life at all. Ohio State just won, like Schleich said, the national championship. So, I mean, if we want to get into it now, part of the thing is Michigan wants to know who the smoking gun is, and we can maybe get into that a little bit tomorrow. So, you know what, we'll put a pin in that. We'll get into that a little bit tomorrow.
Do it. Let's go tomorrow.
Another one coming from Timothy Cunningham, 3983 from yesterday's show. Knowles wasn't in this alone. Everyone wants to give him total hero status for the number 1 defense this year. It started with his scheme, but the coaching staff, along with the head coach, has to be on board with it, plus the right players to make it happen. And that's what anyone will tell you. The X's and O's are important, Schlegs, but so are the Jimmies and the Joes. And the Jimmies and Joes are probably more important than the exact scheme that you're running.
Yeah, and first off, everybody that's on here, one, Bob and I are critical, but we're also real. And we don't just say it's all Jim Knowles here because you can't do it without great assistance. Like, you can't have a great strength conditioning program without great assistant strength coaches. It's just what it is. So, yeah, I think James has done a phenomenal job developing those guys. Think about it. The 2 guys that started was Cody Simon, who had very, very limited starts going this year, that also became the Rose Bowl MVP and the championship game MVP. And I thought he played fantastic. All right. And then you had Sonny Styles that literally came in first time he's played the linebacker position, learned all 3 linebacker positions, and had a really, really good year, and is coming back and will be better next year. So James did great. I think the way that Walton G in the back end communicate and coach those guys at a high level, and the communication that they had across the board, especially later in the season, fantastic. So yeah, they get a ton of credit. So, but they all know that. But just so you guys know, by them going having an opportunity to be evaluated for a defensive coordinator job now that Jim Knowles left is predicated upon how well they did develop their guys and coach their guys. So it's all part of the equation.
Absolutely. And Emily threw this one in here. We'll get into this more tomorrow, Emily. We don't have enough time today. When do we start winter workouts? Other schools have started.
Shit.
Just curious. So they've started stuff last week with some of the mid-year guys. They started getting stuff into it this week. But yeah, you're behind the 8 ball a little bit, but we'll get into that. And Schlegel can give you the behind the scenes of what that ultimately looks like as well. That's it for our tailgate talk today. Brought to you by RealTruck. We're going to wrap up the show with Schlegel's parting thoughts. All right, welcome back into the show. Parting thoughts with Anthony Schlegel. You got a minute.
Oh, shoot, man. Hey, throw this up there, Pat. So I got a minute. And this goes back to like everybody looking at when we got Will Howard. And there was another great tweet that just had all the other tweets and comments from, Ohio State people and fans and people of the college landscape that look at this and it's like, why would they go get Will Howard? And, it goes back to the eye of the coach. And Bobby was talking about like him, Ryan Day being comfortable. But when you see a player and you see like toughness and you're like, man, I can develop certain aspects of this. The leadership qualities, the toughness qualities are what caught the eye of Ryan Day looking at this, predicated upon what happened the year before and why he wanted something different. And as he told that quarterback room, you just saw how it was done. That's the expectation of an Ohio State quarterback. And it wasn't the fact that he broke C.J. Stroud's completion percentage, having been a 61% completion percentage passer his entire college career. It was about how he led the team, how he led his room, how he led in the weight room. That's what you need at Ohio State because the quarterback is the person that has the ball in his hands every single play. Your best players have to be your best workers. Will Howard is that type of guy, and he's now put himself in a position to where he can get drafted, hopefully have success in the National Football League. But he did a hell of a job while he was here as a Buckeye.
Well, thank you, Schlegel. That's it for today's show. Coming up tomorrow, 12:30. Stay live and locked on here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.